Assalamu alaikum. This is the Vodcast number 2 for our study session on Shadows in the Sun. I hope for those of you who watched the first Vodcast that it was helpful to you. I got some feedback from a few people, and we hope to continue making these Vodcasts better and more entertaining. And inshallah, most importantly, we hope that they help us all do well on the exam. So if you watch them, thank you for watching, and please continue to give us feedback and tell us how we can do better. Really appreciate that. All right, so we'll start with part 3 because last time we talked about part 1 and 2. And this chapter is called The Master of the Quran, and it's about Abdullah bin Mas'ud. So he was the 6th person to embrace Islam, and he did so at the hands of the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhum. Physically, he was known as someone that was of relatively small stature, and he was a shepherd, so he used to tend the flocks of Uqba bin Mu'ayth. His official name was Abdullah bin Mas'ud, but he was also very well known as Ibn Abd because which translates into the son of Abd. Regarding his small stature is actually something that he was often teased about, and in particular there was one incident where he was being teased about having very skinny legs, and the Prophet ﷺ, when he saw this, he actually reprimanded the people for criticizing him on this issue, and he told them that those legs of Ibn Abd are going to be as strong as the Mount Uhud on the Day of Judgment. So subhanAllah is just a very, very powerful reminder that we shouldn't judge people, much less tease people on their physical characteristics, and remember that we don't actually know who's best in the sight of Allah. Alright, so he dedicated his life to being with the Prophet ﷺ and actually became a servant of him so that he could follow him around and be with him most of the time, and even accompany him on journeys and be able to learn from him firsthand. So other people actually noticed this as well, and another Sahaba, Hudayfa bin al-Yaman, once commented, "Verily the closest person resembling the Prophet ﷺ in his manner and traits is Abdullah bin Mas'ud from the time he leaves his house until he returns." So other people really, really complimented and noticed the fact that he was very much resembling the Prophet ﷺ in his mannerisms and actions because of the fact that he was dedicated to it and spending so much time doing that. So, in addition, Abdullah bin Mas'ud was known as one of the best reciters of the Quran, but not only that, he was also very knowledgeable in its meanings and kind of stood out for this knowledge. The Prophet ﷺ once commented, "Whoever wants to read the Quran as fresh as when it was revealed, then let him read according to the recitation of Ibn Abd." And then Abdullah bin Mas'ud himself once was quoted as having said, "By him besides whom there is no God, no verse of the Book of Allah has been revealed without my knowing where it was revealed and the circumstances of its revelation. By Allah, if I knew there was anyone who knew more of the Book of Allah, I will do whatever is in my power to be with him." So I thought this quote was actually quite powerful and inspiring, just to show the dedication of him, mashallah, and trying to learn the Quran to the best of his ability, and so much so that if he ever heard anyone might know more than him, he was eager to be with that person and learn from him as well. So one time there's an incident during the Khilafah of Umar radiallahu anhu when he met a caravan, and Umar radiallahu anhu stopped it and kind of wanted to know who they were, where they were coming from, what they were doing. So the response he got was a bit interesting and unusual. So the response from the caravan was that they said they're coming from a deep valley, and so in Arabic they said min faj'amik, and that they're going to an ancient house, ila baytul atiq. So when Umar heard this, radiallahu anhu, he was a bit surprised and really kind of caused him to pause, because most people don't really speak in such allegorical terms. This isn't really like normal people's communication, and so he had a sense that there must be someone very learned within the caravan that was speaking this way, and he became curious to learn who it was. So he decided to ask him a few questions to see who was this learned person inside. First question he asked is, which part of the Quran is the greatest? And the answer came from Surah Al-Baqarah. The person recited Ayat al-Kursi, and I just wanted to play this ayat as I did in the past because it's just nice to listen to.
سِنَةٌ وَلَا نَوْمٌ لَهُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ مَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يَشْفَعُ عِنْدَهُ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِهِ يَعْلَمُ مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَمَا خَلْفَهُمْ وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنْ عِلْمِهِ إِلَّا بِمَا شَاءَ وَسِعَ كُرْسِيُّهُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ وَلَا يَئُودُهُ حِفْظُهُمَا وَهُوَ الْعَلِيُّ الْعَظِيمُ.
Right, and I'm not gonna read the translations because it's on the screen. So was, which part is most clear on justice? And this answer came, the answer came as being Surah An-Nahl, verse 90. So I'll play that as well.
إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُ بِالْعَدْلِ وَالْإِحْسَانِ وَإِيتَاءِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى وَيَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنكَرِ وَالْبَغْيِ يَعِظُكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ.
And then the third question, so there's going to be 4 questions. The third question was, what is the most comprehensive statement? And the verse came from Surah Al-Zalzala.
فَمَن يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَن يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ.
And the last question, which part gives rise to the most hope? From Surah Al-Zumar.
قُلْ يَا عِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ جَمِيعًا إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ.
So back to the review questions, I thought this would be a very good time to review what we just talked about and make sure that we're remembering the most important parts of the chapter. Okay, so the first question was, how did Ibn Mas'ud become a master of the Quran? So this question, I think the answer is that it's because he kind of dedicated his life after becoming Muslim. He dedicated his life to being with the Prophet ﷺ as much as possible. He became one of his servants in order to be with him even on journeys and to be able to learn firsthand from him in this way. So I think this is how he did it, and he was later even recognized as resembling the Prophet in mannerisms and actions, and even recognized by the Prophet as having a beautiful recitation, and later on in his life having great knowledge of the Quran as well. So what were his most important qualities? Kind of on a similar topic here. So obviously we mentioned the recitation of the Quran was very strong of his. Also the knowledge of the Quran was one of the strongest of the people at that time. And actually another story that I didn't mention is that he was once known to be filling the pages of the Quran from memory, and during the Khilafah of Umar radiallahu anhu, and when Umar found out that somebody was doing this, he was at first enraged, but then when he found out that it was Ibn Mas'ud, he felt more at ease, and he thought, because he knew he could trust him because of his great knowledge. And then, what do you understand from his answers to Umar's questions? Well, I guess this is just a testament to his great knowledge of the Quran. He just asked these 4 questions on the spot. It's not like he had time to flip through the Quran and try to pick out the most important verses that related to each answer, but he just was so knowledgeable that it just came to him immediately, and subhanallah, he really answered it accurately. And even if not for the test, these are verses that we should always remember because of their powerful meanings and messages. Alright, so we're going to end there, right under 10 minutes, inshallah. See you next time.